Hello, everyone. Welcome to Beyond Life Paranormal Researchers podcast. I'm your host, Russell Reynolds, and we have a good show tonight. We got a special guest. He is one of Nesper's very own team members. He actually stays at the Warrens house and takes care of all the objects in the Warrens Museum. I had the privilege of spending some time with him at Missouri State Penitentiary at the Get Haunted event as he talked to all of us about the objects in the museum, the shadow doll, the fire doll, and we didn't know if we were going to have a show tonight with him on because they had some storms rolling through Connecticut, but he is here with us. They didn't lose power, so without further ado, let's welcome Wade Kirby from Nesper. Hey, Wade,
Thank
welcome to
you.
the show.
Thank you. Good to be here. Thank you. It's an honor.
Let's say hi to everybody in the chat. We got Tracy Rizzo. Hi, Tracy. Jimmy Court. Hello. My best friend Andrew Baker from high school. I graduated with him. He's on.
Well,
Come in, bro. So, tell my audience a little bit about yourselves that aren't familiar with you guys and what you do.
well, I'm a part of NESPR, which is the New England Society for Psychic Research. Um, we're a faith-based paranormal investigation group, and our main thing that we do, which we don't really talk about, is we help clients who have trauma or oppression in their homes or in their lives, and we teach them hopefully how to slow that down, and eradify it from their life. It doesn't always work, but we were trained by some of the best in the world and the founders of it, Ed and Lorraine Warren, and we take their advice and principles very seriously. And it's very rewarding and trying, and you're always learning something every single day. There's still things to learn, and Mr. Warren would have been the first person to say that. We don't have all the answers, but ask questions, and I'll try to state. I met them back in '87 when I had some phenomena going on in my apartment. Now, at this point, I didn't really dwell into the paranormal. I knew of it and UFOs and all of this stuff, but it wasn't part of my life really. And the phenomena got targeted to me specifically because I lived alone in the same apartment I live in now when I'm in the city. And it got so bad that I had to have people stay over. It wasn't safe for me to be there alone. Um, uh, I mean, if after them witnessing it and some friends never speaking to me again, and I get it, I understand. Some have stayed with me, and we talk almost every single week, and are friends for life. You sure do know who your friends are when you really need them. So I had three priests come over. It would quiet things down for a few days, 3, 4 days, and he would have the apartment blessed. And the last one came in and was so disturbed and traumatized by what he was sensing, he left. He said, "I can't stay. I've got to go." He left the door open as I watched him go down the hallway to the staircase. So I was in a wit's end and didn't know what to do. And it was getting worse and worse and worse. It was getting critical down to where it wanted to kill me. quite frankly. So, and I really don't talk about it much, but uh, uh, my friend who had helped me a lot during this time in Connecticut that they knew about these type of things. They're demonologists, and I stopped them and I said, no, 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 I don't want a demonologist in my house. That's the problem. We've got enough demons as it is in my life. So he said, no, they eradicate negativity. They bring in the church and turn things around in a good state. So he said, I'll call. So 2 days later, I got a phone call on my message machine that Miss Warren called and said, please call me. And so I did. And for the first time in 9 months, I was introduced and was talking to people who knew what I was going through. And not only that, they believed me. And it was very, it's funny. I was talking to Mr. Warren, and he says, I have no doubt of what you're going through and that it's real. And I broke down because there, no, not many people believe me, and, um, I remember at work where I worked in the city, they let me go home early because it was a slow day. And I remember crying because I said, "No, I don't want to go home. I don't want to go home." It was bad. So here are these two, this couple who helped me, taught me how to eradicate negativity from homes. And in a nutshell, uh, I did it on my own for 25 years, helping people, including a member of Congress, which will go nameless. But yeah, so I did that, and then through COVID, etc., and Miss Warren's passing, of course, um, Ed died in the mid 20s, but I mean 2000s, I should say. But when Miss Warren passed, her daughter Judy called me and said, "Hey, would you like to come to the house and just spend a weekend with the cats?" So I'm like, she says, "You don't have to say, you don't have to keep doing it, but just see if it works, something you might be interested in." So it got me out of the city during COVID, which was good. And I met the cats, and it was love at first sight. So yeah, that's it's going on now in October. It'll be 5 years. So
Oh,
yeah, ask your questions.
I like to say hello to my dad who's watching too.
Oh yes, Mr. Russell. Hello. I thought about you a lot today.
Yeah, he can't wait to come out to the Paracon. We're all coming out in September.
It's our fourth one and the biggest one. I mean, I, right now I think it's too big, but it's going to be great. It's going to be dynamic. And let me tell the audience that when you go to the Paracon in Gettysburg, let's see, it's September 28th and 9th. There's a VIP party on the 27th on that Friday night. But when you go like that Saturday or Sunday, first thing I recommend, everyone wants to go into the Artifact Museum room. And that's great. You will, but they're not going to go anywhere. Look at the speaker schedule. There are some powerhouse speakers and guests lined up. So look at the time you want to watch and listen to Ryan Buell and synchronize your day with that. For example, Ghost Brothers, anyone who's going to be speaking, schedule your day around that. Then you can do the museum and then the vendor hall and learn about. This means a lot of information that you're not going to get on the Discovery or Travel Channel. You're going to get one-on-one personal experiences, and it's phenomenal. So I do hope you can come and learn. It's be great, and there are tickets still available.
Yeah, I can't wait to go out there.
Yeah, well, go to warrens.net if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and it'll give you a link to the Paracon and but schedule your day with the speakers because they're only going to do it once or twice a day, and then they'll do the same thing on. Most of them will do the same thing on Sunday. So if you're there Saturday, plot it out by speaker. Okay, now go ahead. What else can I help you with?
Let's talk about some of the objects in the Warrens Museum.
Yes.
I know the most
Um,
one is Annabelle.
yes. Well, it's interesting. There are well over close to over 1,100 items in there. And we've learned, people say, well, is there anything more dangerous than Annabelle? Yes, there actually is. And we've learned more information on them in the past 2 to 3 years. Um, so basically, everyone knows the Annabelle story. It's interesting, when we pack the truck for the Paracon. Um, we'll have the museum blessed. We have everyone kind of like, when I say everyone, we have the items. Um, Kind of calmed down through prayer, Gregorian chants, through an incense method, a high church incense method, holy water, holy oil on the doorways, windows, etc. Things in there kind of calm down, not in a comatic state, but they are very subdued. They're not interested in activity. Um, so we would load the truck that way. But it's interesting. Once we tie things down, once we bless the inside of that vehicle, including the driver's area, and we do the outside of the truck, when we start that motor, we're not thinking about what's behind us or what
Right.
the latest that's done or information we found out. We're talking about baseball. We're talking about food. We're talking about movies. We don't dwell on it, and we don't give it the recognition or attention, because that would just do what? That would simply feed it.
Yep.
So when we set things up into the artifact room at the Gettysburg Arena, when it's not Gettysburg Arena, not what it's called, but where we're going to do the Paracon, um, we will kind of silently redo binding prayers, especially around some of the dangerous items. We will have stanchions, so where you can't get within 10 to 15 feet of the items. I will do holy water on the floor all throughout the entire place. And if all goes well, and I talked to the lady who's in charge of that room, um, I'm excited because not only can I have some Gregorian chants and music that I like to play when I bless the museum, and I'm not a priest. I'm not a priest. Let me get that out of the way right now. Um, the items are kind of very not asleep, but they're dazed. They're down. They're not going to be threatening. They're not going unless they're provoked, which you can't get that close to. And we have security in there at all times. And yeah, it's going to be a fascinating situation. So there's a lot more items that are just as dangerous and than Annabelle. Items, when I say dangerous, I mean death. One, the fire doll, for example, was in the kitchen when the house burned down and burned the 13 children in West Virginia, the Bailey family. Unfortunately, we found that out through the Etsy's method about 2 years ago. Um, and I must bring up how we did that. There was a group called the Overnight, and there's like 4 to 5 people, and they go all over the world and investigate overnight in the nighttime hours. Well, they wanted to get into the museum and research for 4 years, and Tony Spira said, no, no, out of the question. No, the museum's closed. We don't, no one's visiting, etc. Well, we watched a few of their videos, and they matured. They didn't make fun of the spirits. They didn't challenge or chastise them. So Tony took a leap and said, you know what, you got come in with the team members in the room present with you, and you can research and investigate. Well, they did, and they were very good. They were respectable, and we were very happy. So they came back about a year later with another idea, which will tag into why I bring them up. They wanted to do a live 7-day marathon to raise funds for Feed America. They would stay in the museum at all times, and they would eat. They would sleep in there. Of course, they'd have their own bathroom trailer, but they would basically be living in the museum. While they were there, they would raise marathon money during the day, and then at night, like between 7 and 4 in the morning, they would investigate. And
Mhm.
the information that they got, because they had a unfiltered access. Now they weren't supposed to touch. They weren't supposed to use any of the Ouija boards or any kind of conjuring type device, etc. And they were very good about it. We had them sign waivers on that. They were very respectable and good. The information that they got on some of the items that we didn't know, we had very little information on them, was astounding, and it well documented the items and brought a lot more raised eyebrows and respect for what is in there. That doesn't mean worshiping, or putting them on a pedestal. That means treating them with um, respect and dignity, and yet knowing that they're demonic. Almost everything in there has to deal with a cursed item or a death or pain, unbearable things that I tear up when I think about something has that happened to some of those, what those items have heard and seen. So, um, and Miss Warren always said, if you're not scared when you come in here, don't come in here. Because fear, you got to remember, and if the audience, if I can give you anything tonight, fear is your body's attempt to say, I'm uncomfortable, let's change this. So it chemically treats, you get a stiff neck and your legs are frozen and don't move and your breathing goes. That's your body naturally putting up a defense. So after time and time, and it doesn't come in one time, with practice, you can kind of break that fear, identify it because it does creep up on you, and then with breath control, you gain the oxygen to the brain. You facilitate more levelly and common sense, and fear is slowly eradicated. I think fear is good in a way because it's bringing your heightened abilities and you're alert more. And but believe me, in there you want to be. You want to be. Sometimes it's like walking down a jail cell, and hearing all the inmates vibrationally uh, make judgments and throw things at you vibrationally. It's I don't like going in there, and I have a job to do. And but there are times when like other team members will say, no, we're not going in there today. I'm not doing that today. I don't feel like it. And some days you don't feel spiritually um protected. There are good days in that, and there are bad days in that. And
Right.
when you're honest with yourself and say, hey, you know what? I feel kind of vulnerable today. I'm not going in there. That's smart. That's smart. And we recommend that. Um, so as far as the items goes, we learned a lot about in the past 2 years through the overnight group doing Etsy's method, doing the Phasma box, the tools. Now, and I'll tell the audience right now, I'm not one for the electronic tools, but I don't know much about them. Dan Rivera, the lead investigator, he's trying to teach me, and I will say this. Um, you can get the evidence or readings off a object a lot faster with the devices. And I will also say that in the past 3 years, the devices have kind of exploded in their specific abilities. In other words, um, there's no more white noise radio channels surfing, trying to get a word or so. All that is gone, thank goodness. Because that's what I'm like. No, I don't want that. I'll go off. I go off my intuition, as Miss Warren taught me. But Dan brings in the. I'll say, hey Dan, over here in this cell on the third floor, over there, the third one from the end on the right, and he'll bring in the machinery or devices in there, and then boom, the research starts. So that's the way that Dan and I work. We work well off each other.
Well, I know his Estes method down there in the dungeon that night at Missouri State was legit because we ended up doing our same Estes method, but only we didn't use the spirit box at that time. Julie and I were just using our abilities and our senses. We put the noise canceling headphones on and just tapped
Now,
our senses with that.
let me ask you this, because this is interesting. First off, I went down to the dungeon the night before, but with Rob from Get Haunted, but only for 5 minutes. So I had to stay in the museum because I was the tour guide all night long, and that's okay. I like that. I'll be the one in the Paracon. I love that. I love sharing the stories and teaching people about that. So, um, when I was so I couldn't go down in the dungeon and hear all the experiments and the spirits talking and all. So I'm between each session in the museum, I would go into the what I called our little Nesper room where we kept all our extension cords and leftover lights and boxes and containers, and I had my little refreshment stand set up with my waters and things like that and face wipes. So between each time the people would change, I would run in there and wipe my face and drink some water. And I realized on the third time that I'm being stared at. It's up on the right side near the ceiling. And I'm like, that's a male, and he's about 31 or 27, and he's very mad. He's not demonic. He's territorial. He wants to be there at the jail cell. Like, imagine this is the cell. And so what I didn't know is what was going on below me in the dungeon with all the experiments. They kept getting the words on the Etsy's method, uh, 20 20 cell 20, and I didn't piece it together. And then I would go into the cell to drink water between talks, and there'd be nothing there. All's good. No eyes, nothing. I said, okay, he's gone. And then also the next time he'd be back and he'd be like flaring. He's really angry. And by the way, he wasn't angry. See, this is my intuition. This is what I'm talking about. He wasn't angry, like demonic angry. He was angry that his peace was interrupted that night, especially with all that going on with the museum there, the electro, the lights, all the people coming and going. He was mad that his routine he was interrupted. So that's
Right.
why he was trying to get out of there and went down to the basement with when you all were doing the experiments. Do you remember anyone or a male saying 20?
Yep. Dan actually got that. And then when we did our session, I jumped in on with blindfold and noise canceling headphones, and I was getting the number 20.
Well, I didn't realize because all of a sudden I think Candy came and told me, and I looked up on the wall, and that's 20. That was the cell we stored our things in, and I kept going in and out. And I'm like, oh, very interesting. He and I said to him, like the second time I perceived him, I said, I'm not going over there. You're not coming over here. I'm just coming in here to drink some water, and I'm gonna go back out. I know you need your space. So that was very interesting. I didn't know any of that was going on downstairs till like maybe three hours later.
Right.
And then the last two times I went in there, he was gone. I don't know where he went. He was gone. Nothing was there. Peace and quiet. I don't know, but he wasn't bad or demonic or anything. He was just angry that his energies got messed up. His
Right.
place, as he called it.
And Julie
Yeah,
did pick up on a man when she went under in the Estes method. She picked up on a man that was angry. He was cussing at everybody that was down in there because she's a channeler with her medium abilities. And
interesting. See, I missed all that.
that was right after you guys had packed up
Oh,
and we went down
oh,
there,
interesting.
finished up that night down there on free roam. And
Right.
we,
Yeah,
we had
because he. Go ahead.
we had a group with us, and there was a group of guys that ended up tagging along with us. And when Julie started picking up on that man down there and it started cussing, they hightailed out of there. They did not stay.
Yeah, that's interesting because he wasn't when we were packing up. He wasn't in there. You know.
Yep.
and there's a that's just one. There was a lot there.
Oh,
I
right.
I was before the we had a little after we set up the museum, we had a little dinner break and it was 20 minutes. You know, I don't need much, so they had pizza, and I'm sitting there in the main hall, and at the end you can see the big. I'm going to call it a four-story window with bars with that lets the light in. I wasn't even thinking of it, and it just like it was almost 80% done before I realized what was happening. But I saw a like a ping pong ball, gold, sparkly, kind of translucent, because when it went by, it came into my vision, and now it was a good, I'd say, 60 feet away. It wasn't by the window, but when it went in front of the window, I could see the bars moving behind it, which made me say, "What?" And what is that moving? And then it went down to about head level near the floor, and it was about 40 feet from me, and then it just went zip on the right and went into a cell. And I said, "Oh, oh, right, right, I'm in a haunted penitentiary." So that's yeah, that's how that happened, but I wasn't even thinking of it when I saw it.
Right.
um yeah, that and the man in 20, that was my thing for the night. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see the other buildings. um have you had time to get all? It's a massive place, and
Oh,
I was
yeah.
fine. I was fine with that, because I just wanted to focus on the people in the museum and get that worked out, and they could understand it. Um, Tell your group here. I bet you most of them know, but in 2, 3 sentences, what is the Etsy's method? And I'm going to try not to interrupt.
It's where you put noise canceling headphones on with a blindfold, or like Dan's got those goggles that work pretty well. And one person will ask questions real low so you can't hear him, and you're to relay the messages that come in on the spirit box.
So the person who will ask the questions, he or she could be 60 feet away and
Yep.
whisper the question. There's just no way for that person, that human, to hear it or cheat, so to speak. And if you get a um, positive response, then you know you're doing what's called directly talking to spirit, and that's how you'll get information. So that's how we got information on the fire doll, on the dinosaur. Though we knew what was going on with the dinosaur from Conjuring 3 and Arnie Johnson and the Glatzel family, but we learned more details. But it was fascinating because as we were doing the fire doll, um, it was claiming to be a 14-year-old child attached to the doll, and it kept calling for mommy, and it was almost crying because it was involved in a fire, and it kept saying, "Fire, fire, mommy, fire." And so at that time, one of the family members of the overnight group was Googling this information and came up with the Chicago Tribune story,
Mhm.
and we now have it printed in the museum next to the artifact, that you can document all that. So the spirit, we wanted to make sure it was telling the truth, because demonics, almost every sentence they say is not the truth.
Right.
So it was giving all of the children's names, and then the all during the Etsy's method. Okay, so Dan was not hearing the questions, but he was giving the names, and we. It's very odd because I have four siblings and I don't know their birth dates, but I'm not demonic. So we the guy who was doing the Etsy's method with Dan said, "What are their birth dates?" Because he had them all on the paper, and the entity, the little girl, gave all the birth dates and the names all through rote. So we knew it was something demonic, and it was not a little girl in a fire. It was tricking us. So we knew what we were dealing with. And you see, to your audience members, the demonic, you can always tell because you always can tell in the eyes, by the way. You can always tell in the eyes. But the demonic has the wisdom of the ages. So it knows what your grandmother gave you on your fourth Christmas.
Right.
It knows how your grandfather talked. and it can manipulate these. So we learned that no 14-year-old child would know the birth dates of every single sibling and name them off yet in chronological order. So we knew that it wasn't telling the truth, and that was the demonic that was trying to trick us. But and see, and then again, you have to just kind of like, okay, the session's over. You can't challenge the demonic. You don't want
Right.
to do that. You don't want to say you're lying. You're a demon. No, that's challenging. And they will always take you up on a challenge. It may not be that night during the investigation, but it could be 3 months to 4 years from then, and they will always do it. They will always do it. So we don't challenge or placate, but we also don't play the game, and then we simply stop the occasion or opportunity for them to give more falsehoods. Make sense?
Yep. We had a question for you also.
And
Andrew
by the way, forgive me, I can't read the comments because I don't have very good vision. So go ahead with the comments. I try. Hopefully, I can help.
Andrew said, "How accurate are the movies about Annabelle?"
Well, your question is very interesting because you're asking about not Conjuring 1 or 2 or 3. You're asking about Annabelle 1, 2, and 3. Um, Annabelle 1, I would say that there's 8% truth into it. By the way, uh, Russell, don't get me back on this. Say Warner Brothers after I'm done here a minute, because I got a story to tell about the Annabelle doll and the image it has in the movies. So,
Okay.
um, Annabelle 2, again, 20%, maybe 25% truth, but it is a good movie. That is a good movie. I do enjoy that movie. Annabelle Comes Home is probably the most realistic,
Mhm.
although the last 40 minutes, no, that did not happen when a party and a girl went in the museum and touched everything and everything went crazy. No, Mr. Warren would never have allowed that. And Judy was, as she knew as a child not to go in there, and she never did. So that part is untrue. However, it is a very good film, and I would say that's about 45% true. Especially with the relationship with the family and the daughter Judy, and it does pull on your heartstrings. That's my favorite Annabelle movie. So 20% one, 25%, 28% two, and number three, I would say about 30%. Yeah. Um, yeah, but I do love Annabelle Comes Home out of the Annabelle movies. Now, the Conjuring movies are different. By the way, they are going to start filming Conjuring 4, which will be the last rites, and it will be the last Conjuring movie series by Warner Brothers. You forgot to name Warner Brothers, Russell. So it's funny, when The Conjuring 1 was being written and conceived, Warner Brothers went to Mattel, who has the rights to Raggedy Ann doll image. So they said, we're going to make a horror movie with, can we use your Raggedy Ann? And Mattel, innocently enough, said, no way, absolutely not. So Warner Brothers was on their own to design a attractive, uh, uh, friendly, cuddly, demonic, sinister doll, female doll. And that's why the doll in the movies, Conjuring 1, 2, and 3, and probably 4, look different rather than the real Raggedy Ann. Although Conjuring, I'm sorry, the Annabelle Comes Home 2 does tie in a storyline of why they're different. Cleverly done. But yeah, that's why the image of a Raggedy Ann is the real demonic doll, whereas the movie one, they couldn't get the rights. And I get it, I understand. And well, $1 billion plus more later, who has the last laugh? But yeah, that's how that came about. Why the what we call the movie doll, Annabelle movie doll. And we have one given to us by Warner Brothers for Annabelle Comes Home. It is in the museum. It is not haunted. It does not have any attachments. It's in a case, glass case, much like the movie. Interestingly enough, um, because it doesn't have an attachment, we're able to bring it out physically and not have it in a case. Dan Revere, the lead investigators, he always likes to make cases for the dangerous items to contain the evil. So anything of extreme danger has a case. Um, but the movie doll case, um, it has a female spirit named Norma, and we've actually got a photograph of the head of her inside the case by the overnight group, but we don't know who she is. She's not related to any history that we know of, or
Right.
Mr. or Miss Warren never spoke of a Norma. So that's all I know to tell you on that. And she's not very strong or demonic at all. Some they just latch on to some things for whatever reason. We don't know. But yeah, the Annabelle movie doll is not haunted. Yes, that's your. If that answers your question, that's a good question.
George DaCosta said Wade is definitely an old soul, and I can't wait to see him again in September.
That moves my heart. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate you saying that. Um, I guess I'm an old soul. I want to get this lifetime right. So, and I got to live with myself, so I might as well be a good person. So I
Right.
look forward to meeting you in the museum, the artifact room. Please come up and uh, shake my hand and introduce yourself. It gives me such warmth and joy. And you know, and not to be serendipitous, but people like you all, this is why we do this, to educate, to teach, and that's why we keep the items in the museum locked so that you are safe. It would be no good if we burn the items. What would happen then? What would happen, Russell?
You're just burning the doll, the item. You're not burning what's attached to it.
You're burning the vessel that's attached to.
Yep.
So energy cannot be destroyed. Okay. So if I burn the doll of Annabelle, for example, um, they would never let me in here again. But anyway, it would simply be transferring the energy to be free to attack another person on Earth. Very dangerous, and that's why we don't want it touched. We don't want it bothered. We do not. We consecrate and give blessings upon the items with binding prayers and holy water and oils. But no, we don't. Will no. You don't want to. If you have a demonic item that you know and feel is demonic and it's causing you trouble, you can mail it to us. We'll take it. We'll determine what the strength and what is going on exactly. But if you want it out of your house, we get items about every month and a half to 2 months, and yeah, you can pick up some things and literally vibrationally hear the story of what's going on. But that's why. So you want to leave the genie in the bottle because you want to know where the genie is. That's why we leave it as the item, the doll in this case, is a conduit. By the way, I tell this in the museum when we do the at the Paracons. Why are so many dolls haunted? Well, there's really not much. There's not a lot, but those are vehicles that the demonic will use because when you see a doll or a little puppy dog toy stuffed animal, what's the first thing you want to do? Pick it up and bring it
Yep.
to your heart and rock it. Little girls with dolls and all. That entity knows this and uses it as a vehicle to trick you. You think it's safety and nourishing, but no, it's the opposite. It will literally dislodge from the doll and look into your auric field around your body and try to locate cracks where it can embed its energy into you. And it can stay there for 3 days, it can stay there for 5 years until the time is right when you get a bigger crack and it can enter in. That's when you're going to hear the chatter. That's what happened, for example, with Ronnie DeFeo and Amityville Horror. He heard the chatter, never stopped. The chatter, shoot them, shoot them, shoot them, kill, kill. That is when you know you have an attached entity. And uh, I hope that I don't know where I got off on that tangent, but yeah, the demonic will often use stuffed animals and dolls to attract someone to get near their heart, the heart chakra area. Make sense?
Yep, especially for, like, your little kids because your little kids are easy targets because 'cause they're weak.
Yes, yes, and they will feed off of that, and you'll notice the behavior. This is very interesting. How, and I don't want to go on a tangent, but if you look, if you don't believe anything I said tonight, that's fine. But you got to look at your video games, how they're geared to young males, and they're usually violent and dark. You got to look at your TV. What energies are coming off that TV now? Um, uh, uh, the media is has a lot of dark, unfortunately, undercover current that's being produced right now, and it is affecting the consciousness of the younger kids, and having a whole nother effect without. Um, Losing a body of a Raggedy Ann doll and being free. It's got an undercurrent that's quite active, and we're well aware of this. I don't think 4% of society is aware of that, but
Right.
that's, where we come in to help. What's another question?
Uh,
By the way, I love to
Andy
talk and I
Slater
love questions.
said, "Hi, Wade. So blessed to have met you 2 weeks ago."
Say that again.
Candy said, "Hi, Wade. So blessed to have met you 2 weeks ago."
Oh, at the penitentiary or the
Yep.
the
Yeah.
state prison?
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, that was a remarkable experience. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for
George
listening to me.
George DaCosta said, "I guess he
Yes.
forgot about me."
No, I know George. He lives in Florida. He's a good friend of Nesper, and we like him a lot. Very smart.
Julie Couch said, "Hi, Wade. Good to see you again."
Oh, good. Who?
Julie
And if
Couch,
you're not careful, I'll bring out my magnifying glass. Just kidding.
she met you at the prison. She was with us at the prison.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. I hope I could make an impact and help in some way. Um, and what does this one say?
Candy said about where we were talking about burning the vessel.
Right.
Then it's more dangerous. You don't know where the energy will go.
Exactly. And it will go and it will not be good. And the people that it will probably start hovering around will have no idea that that stuff even exists. So yeah, they have the wisdom of the ages and will use that against you at any time. Candy's very right on that.
And then Joe from Next to Kin Paranormal said, "Wade,
Yes.
you have such a wealth of knowledge. Just love listening to you, my friend."
Well, he had a show before this one, and yeah, I believe it was his first one, but you wouldn't know it. That was Joe. That conversation you had was like sitting around a campfire, and you want that flow. That you did it. It was a wonderful job. Joe and his son I met. At the hospital, in Old College Hill Hospital in West Virginia. And immediately we clicked and uh, worked with his son and him, and they're very supportive. You know why people get so closely bonded in the paranormal field? When you're in a show on stage, say Broadway, you have to rely on the other person on stage, their lines to be said and memorized and done correctly so you can do your part. When you're in a paranormal situation and it's dark and you're in a hospital and down a long hall, you rely on the other person's response for your safety. That's
Yep.
how friendships start very quickly, if that makes sense. And to me, it certainly does. You begin to be excited when you know other people are going to be on your team or in the location.
Right.
Like for Joe and his son Dom, I feel comfortable when I know that they're there. There'll be less drama, and if someone does have a reaction or freak out, it's all good. You come to me. We're going to get you out of the room, out of the place. We'll
Yep.
get you centered. This happens. There's nothing to be ashamed about. But what would be ashamed about if you didn't say anything, if you took that energy home, you don't want that. So just come up and let me know. Say you're not feeling good, or I'm really scared. I can't do this. There's nothing wrong in sitting out an investigation. That's actually very smart and acknowledging your abilities.
Yeah, because I mean, you can easily get hurt real quick if you don't say anything.
Oh yeah, and they would love, the demonic would love that. They could just live off your energy, and you're gonna feel weak. You're gonna feel tired, listless,
Yep.
and this could go on for months. Actually, and you don't know. You go to the doctor, he doesn't know what's he. There's no test for an attached entity. So
Nope.
um, you know yeah, that's exactly what it wants. So we try to recognize that and assist people, and it will certainly drain your energy if you let it. Absolutely.
Well, that's
Yes.
what happened with one girl at the prison. That medical emergency. She,
Yes, and I'm sorry I missed that because I was in the museum. Go ahead, I interrupt. Go ahead. Tell me.
yes, it was something with the fire doll and the shadow doll,
Right.
and I guess her body started going into shock. She was ready to pass out. Her blood sugar dropped. When they brought her back to the lobby, she was shaking. So my dad
Right.
did some prayers with her, and he gave her his necklace, and he was able to snap her out of it and get whatever was messing with her off of her, and she was fine the rest of the night.
Right. I wish I would have met her. I always give them electrolytes or hummus, get their energy back to restore it. After we figure out that they were drained, um, they will certainly the demonic will certainly do that and give you no warning. It's very subtle and scary, but you start to shake and all. And the best thing to do is just say, hey Dan, I don't feel good. I'm shaking. Well, I don't understand what's going on. Just come up and ask. We want you to do that. We don't
Right.
want you to go behind the door and fall to the floor. So yeah, come see us. It's all good. There is no judgment. There's no time for judgment
Nope.
with us at Nesper. So go ahead.
We had a question. Can Wade describe the difference between psychic scratch on a person as opposed to a more evil demonic type of scratch like what he saw on me in April?
Okay, I believe I understand your question. A psychic scratch to the victim, the person, will look real and in fact feel like there's blood coming down. That's how they usually first notice it. A little bit of cold or something. What's going on here? Um, a psychic scratch is something that's thrown into your mental consciousness by the entity. Again, remember, the demonic is all knowing. So they know everything that I'm saying in the museum right now, and they know what I'm going to say. So
Mhm.
this has already been played out in them. So they can throw in an imprint of a psychic attack. Now I'm going to use another example. When the Amityville house, when the police went in after the Lutzes left, there was no green slime on the staircase walls as they said it was, because that was a psychic impression thrown in by the demonic to freak them out even more and to flee. That's what they wanted. So a physical scratch by a demonic can certainly absolutely happen. Um, People who were at the Missouri State Prison 2 weeks ago, you remember Dan and Chris and I and the staff of the jail staff were standing there for about a half hour talking. My back shin, there was a hand on it that was going up and down for at least 3 minutes, but I paid it no mind. I didn't want to give it any focus. I didn't want to yell, "Oh my gosh, what is this?" No, it's not going to have any power over me or. So that is something that's physical. If you get a physical scratch, um, first off, you notify your group leader or whoever's the lead in this in that museum or hall or hospital or state prison. Okay, immediately do that, because in my book, that's not allowed. Okay, and
Right.
my first job without challenging is to stop that phenomena. You are not allowed to touch someone in bed. You are not allowed to pull open a shower curtain in the bathroom. You are these are things that are not allowed, and I don't tolerate. And I bring out the holy water, and usually that works. So, but no, I don't tolerate that. If anyone's scratched, best thing they can do is say, "Hey, I've been scratched. I'm a man, 60 years old, but I've been scratched." That's not allowed. That's not right. That's not good. So we want to respond to that without causing energy to feed off that behavior. We want to cease that behavior.
Right.
And yeah, so by the way, I must also say a psychic scratch will disappear very, very quickly, sometimes within 45 minutes to 3 hours. Whereas a physical scratch with blood, we've had that in the museum, um, uh, that would go away in about a day and a half to 2 days. Yes. So that's a brilliant question. That's a brilliant question.
And I've actually seen it in a case that we worked. It was our first ever demonic case, and the demonic entity was showing us, "Hey, look what I can do.
Right,
Know
right.
why you're
And
here, what you're gonna do," and it put an upside down cross on her neck, and we were actually holding her hands trying to calm her down when it didn't happen, and we're all staring at her.
right. Right. See, and that's also a psych out they do. You want to respect it. You want to know that it's done and they have that ability, but you don't want to sometimes they'll say, "Oh, there are legions of demons in this living room in this house." But they do that to psych you out, to get you even more feared. And what does that fear do? Feeds them. It's a cycle. It continues to cycle. I was in my apartment again before I knew all of this. I didn't know what was going on except what even to defend myself. I was punched from the mat inside the mattress to where air would go out of me nightly. I would hear voices in my pillow. I was slapped repeatedly on some phone calls whenever I would ask for help or talk to a priest. I would be pushed. I would levitate. The bed would levitate. Um, I mean, the first time I had someone stay over to protect me, the entity was so angry at me that um, would not go into the main room where all the action took place, the heart of the situation. And my friend went in, and um, it lifted me up in the hallway and threw me down. And I ran and grabbed onto him after 9 months of living alone with this terror. I jumped and grabbed onto him, and it lifted us both off the ground and threw us to the ground. Now we calculated our weight; it was 370 pounds total.
Wow.
So yeah, that's when you know you've got something that has great strength. It is not going to tell you the truth, and it's causing great series of oppressions. That's when you know you have a demonic.
Julie asked, how do attacks aim through when the museum or the haunted items are so protected and blessed every 6 hours?"
Well, they're not blessed every 6 hours. And when we travel, like to the state prison or go to the Paracon, they're blessed every 4, 5, 6 hours. I'd like to do it every 2 hours, but when they're in the museum, like now, they're dormant. They we don't. There are times like for 20 days, 25, 30 days, we don't go in there. We don't go in there. There are times when I will get here and I will hear because I know it sounds strange. There's a feeling you get. It's a it's a knowingness,
Mhm.
and they say if you don't do this protective ritual today, we're not going to bother you. Well, my always I'm going to do the protective ritual because I don't make deals with demons, and they're not my friends. I respect them. Stay there. I'll stay here. But I'm still going to protect the home always.
And I
Is that
remember watching
it?
one of
To
Ed's
go?
videos, and he was saying about you never want to go in there after dark.
No. But you know what? What's kind of a interesting thing? The demonic will use its opportunities whenever it can, and especially if one person's being targeted. Trust me. So you'll have activity at the day at 2 o'clock. You'll have activity at night. Sometimes you'll have more activity at night. Why? Because the energies are more leveled, calmer, less going on. You know, um, coming from New York City, there's a lot of hauntings, but the area is so busy,
Yep.
you don't, you couldn't recognize any activity. You know, Grand Central Station. If you take a digital camera up to the constellation ceiling, especially in the corners where they gather, congregate, you can do a digital like one, two, three, four exposures right after each other, and you'll see the orbs flying about. We're talking about 20 to 30 orbs. Now, why they're in Grand Central, I don't know. But yeah, you could do that. And you see them move. You play the photos back, and they'll move on the screen in like five or six photos in a row. It's fascinating. But that's why they say basements and cellars or attics. Why is there so more likely to be a spirit in those areas?
It's a darker area, and they thrive in dark areas.
Well, think of the state prison. That spirit didn't want his space interrupted. And there's a freaking party going on outside with lights and music and all. So he was thrown. He was upset. He did not want this to continue to where he got out of there.
Right.
So as far as like attics and basements, the environment is more stable. It's
Mhm.
stale. It's undisturbed, and they like that. They like the calmness of it. What's another thing I've learned? Say at the prison, if you get a spirit that was very active, okay, the man in cell 20, literally, he needs to recharge after we left. He,
Yep.
he spent a lot of energy. So it may take him 2, 3 weeks to 6 weeks to recharge. And what do? They hover in corners, behind doors, areas where they won't be disturbed. They just hover and regain their energy. Make
Right.
sense?
Yep. And
Yeah.
I know after this event, there was another one going on there that weekend after we were at the prison.
I'm curious if there was any comments um, um, from the spirits the next week about why we were there or where did we go.
Yep.
Make sense?
And I know Amy's crypt was gonna be back there in 2 weeks, and when we were in death row, we got the name Amy. So it was like they must have knew she was coming in 2 weeks, and she's had already been there in the past,
Well, what does that say?
and that's basically saying that they remember who she is,
Well, how could they know the future or the past
and that's
if
saying it's
they're
probably something demonic,
right? And I don't want to overuse the word demonic. I don't, and it's used a lot
right?
nowadays. However, um, it is this telltale sign, and remember that they want to hide. They don't want to expose the truth. Um, they don't like you and me because we're hopefully going to go to heaven. They will not. So they want to destroy that path. They want
Yep,
to destroy anything godly, righteousness, etc. So when I'm in the museum, I call it the artifact room, the museum at the Paracon, I'll be talking in front of the shadow doll, and it literally just hates me at that point. And
mhm,
it knows I'm going to do that. And I can feel that energy. And I don't often respond to it because my back's to it. But um I can definitely they yeah, they don't like me. They don't like me. But I'm not there to be their friend or fan club. You
right.
know, I'm there
And I
to
know
educate the way the demonic work, expose the devil. That's what Mr. Warren was all about. He
yep,
would be thrilled with the Paracons that we can reach so many people and expose the way of the demonic. He would
yep.
be thrilled.
And I know that fire doll at the prison, I could feel the energy coming off of that, and it was like it was trying to radiate to me, but it couldn't get through because I was protected with my
Good.
blood medals and stuff like that. And when I took pictures of it, you can actually in the picture see its head turned and looked at me.
Yeah. The eyes shift in that one. Now, and I'm going to show the audience something here if I can get it out of my pocket. I've had this for like 25 years. It's it's a little pocket Ziploc bag that has the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem where Jesus died. The stone is there, and the priest will put a bowl on top with oil and bless it. So we have several bottles of that oil here at the house, and it is like a schoolmaster. When that comes in, they cower. So I have this on my pocket. But funny thing, when you're in a penitentiary or a hospital and it's all dark and your friend is five rooms down the hall and it's just you for look, we're human. You forget the medals around your neck. You forget the medals in your pocket with the blessed oil that heard the Lord weep on the stone. And that here we go with fear again, and it's absolutely normal. But yeah, and you know what is good about a medal, for example? What does that do? Is it the metal that keeps you protected? No, it's the knowledge that you have that metal on you that gives what's called faith activated. So therefore, you have control over your fear level, and that is executing and exercising faith. Faith is like a muscle; it's got to be worked out. I always say that,
Yeah.
but it's true, and it takes experience, it takes practice, because no one's going to get it. I don't get. I still am in third grade on that one. So
Yep.
um, Dan and the guys like to scare me sometimes as a joke, but so there's a difference between startled and scared. But the demonic will use both. So the metals, the oils, the holy water, they're tools. Actually, faith of going forward down that hall that's dark comes from within you. And I know that sounds easy to be said on a podcast, and not in a dark hall with the thunder crapping, lightning cracking outside. Um, you should have seen the thunderstorm we had in Connecticut. I didn't know if we'd have power, but we do, and it's all done. So yeah, faith. Um, it's 101, and there's going to be. I want to tell the audience something too. Forgive yourself a little bit because we're not perfect. There are going to be days when you're real confident that you're real protected. I can do this. And then there's going to be days when you feel vulnerable and weak. Just admit that. Have some good food, get some good rest. I know when we do investigations, we don't get rest. I
Yep.
certainly won't at the Paracon, but I'm geared mentally up for it. I'm ready to go, mentally and psychologically and spiritually. I'm ready to go and be in that artifact room all day for 2 days. I'm ready. That's where you got to be. But you will have weekdays on spirituality. That's normal. Don't scold yourself, and allow yourself to say, "Hey, I'm human." But exercise, sleep, and food does help that.
Right. That's
Yeah.
like us when we do like a residential case. We won't jump into one the next weekend. We'll take a break, and then the weekend after, once we're recharged, ready to go again.
Right. Absolutely. And it wants if you do deal with something on the dark side, it wants you weak.
Yep.
It wants you mentally weak, spiritually weak, physically weak. So that's why I wish I'd have met the woman at the state prison. And but I talked to the guard there, the security guard, and he said that she was doing fine when she was leaving. So that's good. That's good.
Yep. And I saw her at the end of the night when she left, and she was back to normal.
Good. Very good. Good. Good to know. Yeah. Um, how did you come in touch with the with the Nesper or the Warrens,
I'm
Russell?
actually related to Ed Warren, my dad and I.
Ah, okay.
We are cousins through the Briggs family that dates way back to the 1700s through my third great grandfather, Caleb Reynolds, out of Rhode Island,
Wow.
and
Wow.
my cousin Dawn in Florida, Dawn Baynard. She did all the genealogy, and she's also related to the Warrens, and
Wow.
she put all the ties together from the Reynolds side to the Warrens, and then to her side, and her side is a double cousin of mine. She's related to my mom too.
Wow. Yeah, I met them when I was at dire dire need and didn't realize it. And way before the movies, you know, 37 years ago, almost 38 years ago. But yeah, and they changed my life. And now I do this, you know, helping people. There's, in my view, there's nothing better, you know. Um, you do get a charge out of it, in helping people, and it opens your heart so much. So
And Lorraine had added me on Facebook back in like 2005, and we've been friends on Facebook ever since. I got looking the other day at my Facebook at our friends, and I was like, so I'm wondering if maybe she did know and just didn't say anything that I was related to her and Ed.
I don't know, don't
But
know.
I never did get to talk to Lorraine or Ed at all. I never did get to meet them.
Well, they did transition, of course, successfully and are on other planes of existence. But I will tell you this, that she knows when I sweep the closets out. She knows when I'm walking up and my right ear will ring, which that's her signal. She'll talk on the right ear, whisper sometimes. And Mr. Warren will come to me with ideas in my dreams because he knows it would overwhelm me a little bit, and also the spirits will come when you are comfortable to receive the message. They're
Right.
not going to shake the bed and say, "Hey, and I got to talk to you." They're not. That would freak you out. They know that, so they're not going to do that. Um, by the way, one of the first things Mr. Warren taught me was what's the difference between a ghost and an apparition. A ghost is a spirit who is deceased without a body, a ghost, and you don't know them, like at the state prison.
Yep.
An apparition is a spirit without a body who you know, grandma, grandpa, brother, sister, and they usually will come in manners that to give a message. They'll come and check on you. Does Miss Warren live in this house? No, she's transitioned, but she does come when I have a question or something like bad may happen that day. She'll come and whisper in my ear. Yes, absolutely, many times, several times. She's even left physical evidence that she's here. So, and I get it, and I acknowledge. Thank you that I see this. Thank you. Um, but yeah, they've transitioned into another dimension, but have the ability to assist those still here as an apparition, someone that you would recognize. And then one more thing on that, an apparition will come when they can communicate you to your and you're open to see it. In other words, they can use the smell of a pipe that your grandfather used to smoke to recognize that it's him, or your mother's cologne or perfume. They would something you would recognize. They don't want the message lost. Sometimes they just come, like I said, to check. Sometimes they have a message. You need help, or
Right.
watch out for your car, etc., etc. Yes, yes, that will happen. Yes, absolutely. So that's one of the first things Mr. Warren taught me, and I still use it to this day.
Yeah, that's my mom does the same thing. She passed away in my home of cancer in 2018, and
Sorry to hear that.
thank you. And she'll come back and she'll come back to visit. She was actually at a client's house with me. I went back to check on a client to see how she was doing, and the client had abilities. And I get a phone call shortly after and said, "Who's that tall woman that was standing by you with brown hair?" And I was like, "You just described my mom."
Yeah, Russell, there's more to life than we know. That's why I love the paranormal. It is just so exciting because it opens up the possibility that life is not just about a paycheck, or a job, or it's about I was thinking the other day, to your audience, how many of you were taught algebra in school? And I'm guessing about 97% of the audience. Okay. How many of you used that algebra this week or even a month, year? Every single person will eventually transition or not, or pass on or stay in the afterlife. There's not one person who ever breathed who won't have this happen to them. But there's nothing taught at school. The word paranormal doesn't exist till you're older, or at least in your late 20s. Um, it's very interesting how I wonder how society would shift and change if that consciousness and awareness would be more spoken of. Isn't that, you learn home ec and how to do laundry. Well, to me, death, dying, and rebirth is on the other side just as useful. Make sense?
Yep.
And
And
there's not one person who would not need that course.
right. And I know a lot of the loved ones too come back to check on you to see if you're down, feeling down, to comfort you like they used to when they were alive.
Well, I think of it this way. Say you have a relative that you really, or a girlfriend that you lost and she died in a car crash, but you really feel miss her. You really loved her, and that emotion, that vibration, like Mr. Warren said, energy cannot be destroyed. That emotion from your heart, true intent, has a signature to that soul that you're thinking about. And like a postcard, when you put a stamp on it and mail it, it goes to that address, no one else. So the emotion you give out to the girlfriend that's deceased goes only to her. Doesn't go to the grocer or to the butcher. It goes to her only. And so she knows what you're feeling. All those prayers and thoughts, they get delivered. Energy is never destroyed. It has to go somewhere. And if you do with strong intent, be it through prayer to a saint or prayer to a lost girlfriend, it gets delivered. Isn't that a wonderful thing?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thing. That I would teach in the class of paranormal spirituality 101. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And that's like even when we go to the Paracons, I do a lot of lectures too. Like Transcendence, I did 2 lectures, one on the paranormal investigation in depth and what we do, and then the next day was I talked about the demonic and the demonology and all that stuff. And
Well,
it's amazing to watch how many people actually listen.
Russell, you bring up a point that I wanted to make. You got to remember, you and I would think of the paranormal, the spirits, the ghosts, whatever you want to call them, every every 10 minutes, every day, maybe an hour. You'd think about it. Okay, me, it's every 3 4 minutes. Um, Most people, normal people, don't think of transition or even what that word would imply, or an apparition in a decade. But suddenly, if they're in a plane crash or a car accident, very sudden, they don't know what happened, and they don't know how to respond or where they are. When you're dreaming, can you prove to me that you're dreaming? How long is it? Is it 30 seconds or is it 4 hours?
Right.
And your subject matter, how do I know you're telling the truth? Well, you're just going to have to take some things on faith. The same thing is on, like, when you transition, and if you're not ready for it or aware of it or comprehend what's going on or have a religious background, um, then you are get lost and don't understand why you're stuck with your friends who aren't responding. The family's daughter's getting married and you're there and no one was responding to you. You become sad, you become bitter, you attract what? other sad and bitter spirits around you, and suddenly you're in a clique or a gang that's not very nice. Now I'm generalizing, um, and being a little comical, but yeah, that's how a lot of transitions go wrong. They don't, and
Yep.
they have no spiritual background. And then innocently, fair enough to them, they just were not exposed to anything called paranormal. Make sense?
Yep. Jenny
Yeah.
Davis said, "Hello, you two."
I want to put on my glasses so I can see there. You're going to have to read them out loud. Hello.
Hello, you two.
Okay. Hello back to you. It's great to meet people. What's that one say there?
Gracie says, "Spirits on the brain 24/7."
Gracie, I'm afraid so. I don't know how I could deprogram it at this point.
I've come to think they guide some of my designs. Tracy, if you don't know, Tracy Rizzo makes T-shirts.
Ah, okay.
So
Tracy, nice to meet you.
she's coming to the Paracon in September also.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I sleep about 3 hours every night, and I'm in the museum like 12 and a half hours talking constantly. And I am, I would want, it's not as rewarding as, I mean, it's far more rewarding to me than going to Disney World. I told Candy that while I was at the state prison. This just is ever so exciting to talk about it. I'm glad I found a niche that I could do this, and I'm glad to be here and taking care of the house and showing respect. Um, by the way, the cats, they ate on the kitchen table. I spoiled them. They were taken good care of to the very end, and a very dignified passing. So just know that Miss Warren was very happy, and I could go on, but I won't because it'll break me up. But anyway, I can't wait to meet everyone in the Paracon. It's going to be very exciting.
Lisa Riddle Cremo said, "I was happy to meet up with you, Wade, for the second time in Missouri, again helping to ease and quiet mind and soul after a few hours of uneasy Estes sessions with Dan in the dungeon.
Yeah.
I cannot
Yeah.
wait to meet up again."
Oh, I get the better end of the deal. Trust me. Yeah, the investigating is not easy, and it's not for everyone because of that. But yeah, I find it exciting, um, and I like to go to a location ahead of Dan, for example. He'll be setting up the equipment and I'll just start walking up staircases where I'm led, where I feel energies, and then later I'll come say, "Hey, go upstairs, the third door on your right. Go in there. There's a male in there. He's ready to talk." And I sometimes say, will you be willing to talk to some friends of mine? They have some devices that you can talk through, and that makes it a lot easier. Would you be willing? And if I get a positive response, I will definitely pass that information on to the team.
Right.
Yeah, I would have done that at the state prison had I had the opportunity, but it's all good. I loved being in the museum.
I know when our first group started off with you at the museum, I was actually standing there. I don't know if you noticed, I was looking up in the balconies up there on the catwalk.
Right.
I spotted one up there, and I had nodded to Julie, who was standing across from me, and grinned at her, and she spotted one behind me up on the catwalk.
Um, I don't know if you saw any photographs that were on Facebook where Dan and Chris and I standing there, and I'm looking off like this. I have to
Yeah,
learn to stop that because I'm picking up energies. Things are moving, and I'm like, you know, but
that's what I was doing.
yeah, yeah. You can pick up on it. So, and I learned that without knowing I'm learning that in my apartment when I first started. Um, so I could see exactly where in the doorway they are. And when we went to the college in hospital in West Virginia, we would go to like the third floor where the infirmary is,
Mm.
and we would stand there with a group of like 20 people, and I would say, "Who's got a digital camera? Shoot over here when I say." and go right, see the door over there on the upper right side, there's two spirits, and go shoot go shoot quickly, and then they would certainly get the digital picture right back, and you would see the two balls, the orbs on the top of the door, and so I learned from, I can't always do it. Sometimes I'm have no input whatsoever, but some days I can help people in an investigation and speed up time and saying go on the fourth floor on the right there, and you'll get some save time and start investigating. So that, yeah, that humbly I say that, and you never know.
Well, that's like down when we were down in 3D, the group I was in, and that was we were with Joe and Dom from Next to Kin. They were doing the human pendulum experiment.
Now they mentioned that tonight on their podcast. What is that?
It's where you actually take one person stands kind of right here, one in the middle, and then one in the back. And the person in the middle is the actual human pendulum. You got to clear your mind, let your senses take over, and the spirit's able to control your body and rock you back and forth. Forward for yes, back for no. And we got some pretty intelligent responses down in 3D. There was a woman down there that wanted to talk, pretty friendly for being a mentally, that's where they house the criminally insane down there. And so Joe was asking the questions. Julie was the pendulum the second time. And he was asking, do you want to talk to a female guest? Went to no. Do you want to talk to a male guest? Went to yes. Well, I already knew who it was going to talk to because I'm a familiar there because I was there last summer. But he Joe asked me my name. He says, "You want to talk to Russell?" And there I went, "Yes." Well, she did remember me from being there last summer. He said I was nice to her, and then later on they started doing the dowsing rods. Well, they pointed at she made the rods point to the cell she was at. They took a picture, and she showed up in the picture when they asked if they could take a picture of her. And they had another person go stand by the cell when they took the second picture, and she showed up again in the picture.
Interesting. See, I couldn't, I would not be a good candidate for that because I would be opening myself up,
Mm,
and I don't do that because of where I live and what I'm around.
right.
So I have to use like an extra armored guard protection. But that's interesting. That's interesting. See, like dowsing rods, to me, it's the same thing as a Ouija board. To
Yep.
me, okay, not to anyone else, but to me, it would be a tool to open me up and be vulnerable, and I can't do that. I can't do that. So, but that's very interesting how the phenomena. I find that interesting, you know. But
Mhm.
remember, and for me, probably if I did do it, it would trick me. In other words, it would not. I would every time something generally happens, I'm afraid I think of the demonic, and it's tricking me because I can't just have a nice grandma come visit me. I
Right.
think it's someone imitating her, and that's from my past. But I think of it as a precaution, and I don't mind having that trait. But yeah, I could never do dowsing rods or nor would I. But yeah, another person, it wouldn't affect them the same way, if that makes sense.
Right. And I know when I was doing the Estes method down that same dungeon cell that Dan did his that night, ended up tapping in the JB, the firebug, who was housed down there.
Right, right.
And not many people can actually tap in the JB. And everything I was picking up on him was spot on to the history of JB being in there, that he was housed there for 18 years down in the dungeon. He had set the prison on fire, and he had went blind. But then I picked up the number 20, and then after that, something dark flashed in front of my face. And I was like, "Nope, I'm not talking to you." And I quick pulled. myself right back out of it.
Beautiful. Because you're worthy of that.
Yep.
And remember, um, I want to explain one more thing to the audience here. It doesn't mean that all the inmates or even half of them are demonic. People who go to a ghost hunt at a location can have entities on them, attached entities, they're called. Uh, they can come to a paracon, etc., etc. And the entity sees 1,000 people and goes, "Wow, let me hop off this one and go to that one,"
Yep.
and then come back to you, etc. Feeling the energies, etc. So it doesn't mean that all spirits are demonic. It doesn't mean that all haunted locations have demonic. No, but or that it would be the history. In other words, were those people who were those spirits or were nasty then? No, but they can be brought in innocently by people just attending events. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, I want to make sure that that's clear, especially if you're investigating like a smaller home or something like that. It doesn't mean that the original source was demonic, but it could been have been brought in. And sometimes I can tell that. I can definitely tell if the demonic has been there for 30 years versus 3 days. Absolutely, can that. Yeah, absolutely. But
Right.
yeah, that doesn't mean that the prison had a bunch of mean, nasty demon people in it. No, it doesn't mean that at all. They could have been brought in at another time, more recent in history.
And that's like I tell people too about their houses when they're getting hurt and hit and stuff. I'm like, and they think it's something demonic that's in there. I'm like, it's not always demonic. That entity lived in that house at one time. To them, you're trespassing on their space.
Right,
So,
right.
what are you gonna wanna do when someone breaks in your house? You're gonna wanna hurt them to defend yourself because that's what you think you're there for. So that's what that entity is thinking too, because you're bringing in all this equipment. They're seeing all these cameras, and they have no idea. Maybe they have no idea what it is, especially like
What?
your 1800s.
Yeah. What if you're investigating a Civil War battlefield and you're
Yep,
bringing in these lights and cat balls and things like that? Now, I did find that spirits will recognize those after a while and know what they are.
yep,
Even children. We investigated the orphanage at Gettysburg, and the children had no problem understanding the equipment. They
right.
piped in right away, which was fascinating. But to hear children's voices, of course, I was cautious if any of them are demonic, but you'll know soon enough. If you get a demonic, you'll know soon enough.
Oh, yeah.
That means on locations or investigations, or you're even home. Yeah,
For
yeah.
me, when I go into a location, if there's something demonic there, I'll feel that heaviness right on my chest, or it'll catch me right between the eyes, and it feels like someone had taken their fist and just drove it right between my eye sockets.
And that's called the psychic oppression.
Yep.
You see, it's not physical. It can develop into a physical thing, but
Mhm.
it's a psychic oppression level. Yeah, that's there goes the scratch that only you see.
Yep.
You know, and you know that because it goes away real quick.
Yep.
Yeah,
And I had that at a my dad and I had did a case in Oklahoma. The rest of my team couldn't make it because they had to work, and it was an emergency when we got called out on because they had kids in the home. Well, the kid's father was doing demonic practices, worshiping. He had the whole goat's head necklace, and they were using a Buddhist sing bowl for demonic practices. They had a book on witchcraft on how to sacrifice and kill people.
yeah,
Well, we were investigating. We bring in DVR cameras and set them up throughout the house. And our one camera in the hallway, I had stopped to take a break, and we were just sitting there watching cameras. Well, the one started pulsating, and then it started getting worse and worse. And then this black figure appeared in it. And it was probably a good 6'5". So I went back there to see what it is, make sure maybe just the camera's malfunctioning. Well, this figure dropped come running directly at me, dropped down to about 5 feet, and I was holding on to my metal, and
Good.
it disappeared at my legs, and I ended up with 3 scratches on my bicep
Yeah,
from it.
well, that was clearly demonic. It wanted to psych you out and scare you. It wanted you to stop what you were doing.
And
Um,
I didn't show it fear. I didn't run. I just stood my ground.
hard to do. Um, and what Miss Warren taught me was, in the name of Jesus Christ, go back from where you came. I know it sounds simple but it has great power. It means stop. You cannot affect me. In so many words. So you're saying that, and it's extremely powerful. It will make them stop and rethink. Yeah, to bother this, because if you're gonna know their game, if you're gonna like destroy everything they're trying to do with holy water and all like that, they eventually say, forget him. We'll go another way.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it didn't bother me at all. We did a blessing on the house, cleansed the house out. Well, the father had come home, and you can clearly see he wasn't for it. He wanted us gone, but it was his mother that had called us in because she was worried about her grandkids with him doing all this stuff. And he ended up, he says, I'm not, it's against my religion to be cleansed with your holy water.
Yeah, there's a he's opened a portal, I'm afraid. Um, and it's still there.
Yeah, he
So
reverted back to his old ways. His girlfriend, he tried killing her.
yeah,
She ended up jumping out of a moving vehicle.
yeah. Um, oh, I could go on, but yeah, you see how they work. You see their game. Unfortunately, that portal's still open, and he's that energy's still there. Okay, but don't go there. Um, but yeah, they work on so many levels, and it's so disguised and subtle that they'll do it for generations, unfortunately. And they've got the time of the world. They were here during the dinosaurs. They've got all the time in the world. So unfortunately, yeah. But so know their game. And by the way, um, I do when we leave an investigation, be it at the prison or even someone's home, bless the vehicles,
Yep,
tap the tires with holy water, and bless inside at the seats with holy water. Just as
yep. We do
I've just seen it
that.
go wrong so many times. So just do that. Yes. Yeah.
We even cleanse the equipment too. We'll
Oh yeah.
cleanse it all down, and because
Yeah.
we don't want to take that stuff home with us.
We had the overnight. The first time they came, their equipment, all their tapes. I don't know how many tapes they had, but they were basically wiped clean when they got back to LA. And that's something the demonic will do. They'll erase
Right.
the evidence so they can't be exposed. One team member was transferring the images on duplicating the tapes, and was so fascinated he brought out his phone and started recording it. So that's how they had the actual evidence,
Mhm.
the part that was erased. They had it on another person's phone. So that's one way they were able to save that footage. But yeah, we bless the cameras, we bless the cases that the cameras are packed in, we bless the vehicles, absolutely, before they leave. And something, why you do that? Oh, you'd be surprised. They could be in a museum and then wipe those tapes clean. Before you drove out of the driveway, the tapes were wiped clean. So yeah, we've had that happen, and we try to, because we want the information exposed. We want it out there.
Yep.
Like I said before, you know.
Yeah, in another case we had worked, this guy was playing. He was doing a lot of research and on the internet was where he was checking out demonic stuff, witchcraft. Well, he ended up conjuring up 3 of them in his house, and
Yes.
we were in his bedroom doing a spirit box session. Well, that spirit box started mocking church music,
Right.
and you'd hear this Latin chanting, and then it was laughing at us, and I've never heard this thing do that, and I had Yeah, yeah, my one investigator had that spirit box, and I had another one. I turned the other one on, and that was acting perfectly normal.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. They manipulate. And by the way, I also want to point out that the demonic now, like sage, white sage, blessed sage, it really doesn't have an effect nowadays. The demonic have upped their game. They're using the internet, they're using false emails, texts. They are manipulating voices saying, Wade, don't come today. I feel so much better and I think I'm getting a handle on this. There's really no need to come. And then the client will say, well, where are you? 2 hours later, I'm saying, you told me not to come. And then she says, no, no, I didn't call you. That was the demonic imitating her voice. So
Yep.
they're upping the game. It's it's a very tenuous time right now. And again, I don't want to repeat myself. That's why we're letting people know about this. That's why in late September we're doing something in Gettysburg, and we invite everyone to come. If you have any questions, you come up and see me. We'll talk. Yeah, but that's why we do that because they're changing their tactics and way of affecting people. The motor apparandi of how they work is being revved up, and not only that, but the amount of them has increased so in the past 3 years. That's something to think about. So yeah, we want to expose this and let people know what's going on. Absolutely.
And that's like my clients. I tell them I will not tell you when we're coming.
Say it again.
I'll tell our clients we will not tell you when we're coming because we like the element of surprise when it comes to that. So it's kind of like, oh no, they're here. And I tell our clients, you do not talk about it. Don't talk about it in your house because then it knows we're coming. Then it goes lays in dormant and it hides
Right, and it
until we
will.
leave. And then it comes out 10 times stronger and it'll
Right.
hurt.
And the longer they have that attachment, the harder it is to get rid of.
Yep.
You know, if you pick something up at a séance, God forbid, or Ouija board reading, tarot card, whatever, um, like 2 days later, if you are brought focus to it and try to remove it, okay. But if it's there for 10 years, it ain't letting go. It's
Yep.
invested too much time on the family and the one it really wants to get with the next generation. It's not going to let go, or it'll come back. You can always get it off, but it'll come back. So it's what Miss Warren termed as the work must be done. In other words, it's time for the work to be done. The client has to do the mental foundation of why I want this to stop in my life. So that's called the work. And then Miss Warren or myself, we can't come every day to someone's home and bless it. We have to teach them
Yep.
to get that foundation down. And this way they hopefully will never have to deal with it again, although they're always the demonic will always come back to check and see how your spirituality level is and how your mental and emotional state is, always. So yeah, keep it up. I mean, like I do here, I have to bless my second apartment in New York City about every 3 to 4 days. It's a standard procedure. There's no question about it. It's going to be done. So I hope that answered your questions.
Yeah. And I mean, that one case, that first case we worked, it took about 6 months to get her back on
Yeah,
track.
yeah. It's not like the movies where it takes one time, one attempt with the priest. No, the real exorcist, by the way, was a young man, and I believe it took 17 times, 17 exorcisms to finally rid itself. Yes. So it takes time, and the demonic will use that against you for as far as being tired, etc. But don't give up. Don't give up. Never. Yeah.
We didn't. We stuck with it and we kept going back and working with her. She goes to church every Sunday and we're like family. She'll invite us over for dinner, everything.
Yeah, Jesus never gave up on us, and look what he did. So
Yep.
don't give up. You are worthy. You are worthy. Yep.
And if we can't help the client, we get them the help that they need. because
If it,
with
go ahead.
demonology.
Sorry, Russell.
I work with a Roman Catholic demonologist, Farah Rose Deal,
Good.
and she mentors me with the demonology.
Good, good. Yeah. I always tell clients try to meet and meet your clergy. Let them see you repeatedly there. Create a relationship. The demonic doesn't want that. That's threatened to them,
Yep,
and it knows very soon you'll be on to their ways. So yeah, start a relationship with the clergy, and I call it the army of light. Start
right.
an army of light in their perception. Makes sense, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why I love educating people in the paranormal and with the demonic too.
Nothing more interesting. Nothing more interesting. Not algebra, not geometry. Um, it's just fascinating, and there's always something more to learn. I don't know everything. I'm first to say it, but there's more to learn, and no one has the answers. The person who charges, the person who says they know everything, walk away from. Save yourself some time. Yeah, you might be lost for 4 or 5 months, but don't worry, he's got a plan for you.
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
that's like the one Paracon we did. There was a client of Julie's. They had lost contact, and she had something going on, and she come to this Paracon we were at October, and that's when I met Julie and them. She come over to my booth. Her son wants to be a paranormal investigator when he gets older. He's only 10, so I was showing him some of my religious stuff, what I wear for protection, and showing him the equipment and explaining stuff to him. Well, as soon as I pulled out that medal to show her son, she immediately started flipping out. And I knew Julie did cleansings over there, so I called Julie over. Well, come to find out, she went up and got Julie's card after they did a cleansing, and she says to Julie, "Do you remember you talked to?" I got to keep some of it confidential, but do you remember me? And Julie goes, "Yeah," and we lost contact. And I was like, "You see what God did? He put you in my path, and I put you right back in her path for help." And I said, "Now you got us both to help." And
Sure.
we ended up going out there working with her, and we were able to help her.
Very good. Very good. Um, Yeah, and just set her on the right path. She's got to walk down the path, but
Yep,
you can point the way and set her on the path.
yep. And
They've got to do the work themselves.
that's what we did. And then a lot of times in our cases too, we'll find other stuff out like sexual molestation going on. We ended up busting up a case on that, and that was the same lady with her. Now her husband put away for it.
Yeah, they create a web of defense. And once they latch on, again, I'm repeating myself, it's like gum. It's going to follow you wherever you walk. So just be aware of that. And all that can be eradicated by not doing Ouija boards, not doing tarot cards, not going to psychics and opening yourself. Keep yourself protected, spiritually elevated, good food, good sleep, although well, it's hard to do nowadays. But yeah, I get it. I totally get it. And just put them on the right path, show them the path, and then they have to do the walk down it. Yes,
Right. And the funny you bring that up about the gum, my dad uses that all the time in our lectures.
it's true.
Yep.
It's true.
He brings that up all the time too. He says it's like stepping on gum, you take it with you.
Whatever way you go, fast or slow, up or down, it's going to follow you. It's true. And once you get what I call on the map, once the demonic know you, yeah, it's yeah. Every day is a I call it an opportunity for victory.
Yep.
Put it that way. Yeah, the
And
opportunity is there. The knowledge is there. you know.
Especially like us when we deal with it. They know who we are, and they
Oh
know
yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
know our names, and they know what we're here for.
See, and a real demonic, a real practice demonic spirit will know when you've been first phone called.
Yep.
They will know what vehicle you'll drive in the next day to get there. So they don't sleep. We sleep. While we sleep, they're plotting. So they're already making lines of action and synchronizing to counter us.
Right.
So that's why we do protection and etc. Make sense?
Yep.
Put that armor on, the armor of light. Yep.
Exactly. My dad gets the one that goes around him. I guess a bunch of people saw it at the prison that night we were there. He stayed in the lobby because he couldn't. His knees started bothering him, so he stayed in the lobby. He was doing his own little thing in the lobby, and when that girl came in with that medical emergency, and he did that
Right.
work on her after they were done, they seen this white glow around him, and they were all shocked that
Well,
he has that white glow.
um, it's no secret your dad's a very old soul, and he's here for a reason. So to assist people. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. It's a beautiful thing.
And he has abilities. He died from a car accident and came back, and we let him do our client interviews because they try to lie to us. He sees right through it. So I let him do my client interviews.
Right. Good. Good. Nice teamwork.
Oh yeah, we work good as a team, him and I. And then we'll have some people kind of faking it. We worked a case where a girl was faking being possessed. And so we did a little bit of psychological on her. I said, "Well, I'm going to call my Roman Catholic demonologist, and she's going to bring a priest in here." So I went outside the door, stood by the door so she could hear, put her on speakerphone, and I said, "So you're coming out?" She says, "Yeah, I'm coming out. I'm bringing the priest with me." Well, that girl asphyxiated her eyes on that door listening, and then realized, "Hey, the goose is up. Might as well come clean." She was doing it to scare her older sister. Well, earlier before I made that phone call, she was fine. She gave Julie a hug, Chris a hug, shook my hand, and then all of a sudden it was just like that, and she started growling. Her eyes started doing her thing. She was staring off
Right.
in the middle of nowhere. So I went in front of her and I pulled out my necklace so she could see it, and I ended up calling Chris on the side and Julie on the side. I'm like, she's faking it because with that necklace right there that I just shown her, that blessed Saint Benedict's medal, she should have lunged at me.
I was gonna say it's a Benedict medal, and she can't tolerate that.
Yep, and it didn't even phase her. And then my dad had that cross that he was wearing at the prison around his neck too, and
Right.
he was sitting next to her while she was trying to reach out to grab him, playing that. And finally, she started nodding off on the couch. So I said to Julie, "Let's do a cleansing on her." So we took a big Saint Benedict's medal about like that. I put it on her shoulder, and she didn't even react to it. Well, the cat got up there. The cat started rubbing against her face and licking her face. And I'm like, "You might as well just give it up. You're faking it." Well, then she finally come clean and admitted she was doing it to scare her older sister. And so we're like, you know what? We're gonna hash this all out now. So we took sister, her, and the mom in another room, and we made that girl tell her mom what she was doing. And finally, they came clean, and I guess they're going to church every Sunday. They're doing pretty good now. So,
Good. Good. And you
so
can always tell the demonic in the eyes. They
yep,
can't lie in the eyes.
yep. And her eyes weren't even; they were normal. Because from that one first case I did, that lady's eyes rolled in the back of her head.
Yeah. But I'm talking about the pupils, the
Yep.
stare. You can see someone else staring out,
Yep. And for
so
dirt,
that
you couldn't.
they can never hide that.
But
But
I guess
there are degrees of possession. I will say that. There's walk-ins, there's half, there's quarter, there's
yeah,
full possessions. So don't think that you know there are times when the spirit will recess, the demonic spirit will recess, and the child's face will come back again.
right. I don't
Yeah.
know, did I show you that video when we were up at the museum? I was showing Dan about that woman where her face had morphed and changed to somebody else.
Oh yes, yes, yes. Right. That's another example right there.
Yep.
And yeah, that's a physical manifestation because it was captured on the camera. It
Mhm.
also can be done psychically or mentally. Don't forget.
And see, and that man that she, transitioned into, he was shot and killed there out on the front sidewalk. He had been messing with the manager's wife, and the manager had told him, "Look, if you're gonna with my wife, you take her and marry her." He says, "No, because you got a family, you got kids. I'll just step away and leave her alone." Well, they were at a get together across the street, been alcohol involved. Well, the manager of the movie theater, he decided he was going to go to use the restroom, come back. Well, here's the guy messing with his wife again. So they were both been drinking, they were drunk. Argument started, and he says, "You keep messing with my wife, I'm going to kill you." Well, I guess the guy said some more words. He went to leave. Well, the manager had followed him. They went across the street in front of the movie theater. He pulled out a 38, shot him dead right there in the sidewalk.
Mhm.
And they had a priest go through there to do a blessing on the place. And this was on the show Dead File. And they got a growl. The priest got growled at. Well, we were in there after Dead Files, and Dead Files did it in 2012. We were back there in 2022 was our first investigation. And I captured the same growl on my recorder. And we had something mock one of my team members' voices. I captured an EVP of that.
Yeah, if I'm at like a paracon and I'm counseling someone, they'll say, "Do you hear that ground?" I said, "Yeah." Ignore it. Don't give it power. Don't give it recognition.
Mm,
Just go on, listen to my voice and what I'm saying. It's more powerful than that. So don't give it anything.
right?
So yeah, keep that in mind. You are divine. You have the path to God. It does not.
And that's even this hotel we did up in Rockport, Missouri. There was a bell there that was from the original hotel, so my dad had rang it, and he sat down in the chair, and four of us had seen this big white light just come right around him. We couldn't explain it. We were like, "What is that?" And then that night after that happened, it's just like activity just picked up in the building. I ended up having an experience up in they have an old library up there. Two of my team members stayed in the front, so I walked in the back of the library by myself. I was still in earshot and eye shot of them, and I hear this loud metallic bang. So I'm like, "What is that?" Walk over, and the metal lid on the toolbox had lifted up and slammed down, and I ended up capturing that on film. I was filming at that time. Never could figure out what did it, and so we don't know if it was the former owner of the place, but that place has seen its share of mob history.
Just let it go. The truth will be exposed.
Yep,
Um, and how do I say this? Um, don't invite it to come back or do that again.
yep, and I didn't even ask it to do it again. I just went over to try to debunk it, Figuring maybe some vibration of me walking on the floor did it, and nothing. We just moved on.
Good, good.
Yeah, I don't invite it. That's like I tell people too when they got something in their house. I'm like, don't communicate with it. Don't try to interact with it. Don't talk to it. Don't fuss at it. Just let it do its thing, and we'll
Don't
deal with it
challenge it,
there.
and don't put posts up on Facebook of what happened last night.
Yep,
Every day they put a post up of what happened. All you're doing is giving it recognition. You're feeding it. It's
yep,
eating off of everyone else's reading and attention that they're giving this story. And it's also encouraging the current state of continuing the activity as opposed to diminishing it.
exactly. And that's why I tell my clients all the time, and they'll sit there and they'll communicate with it. They'll challenge it, and I'm like, don't do that. That's the biggest mistake you
Yeah.
can do.
Like I
And
said, they'll always take you up on it.
I had a guy reach out to me that was filming a TV show, and he was working with a paranormal team, and on the spirit box, it come out and said his daughter's name. Well, he cussed at it. First time he's ever dealt with something like that, and I was like, he wanted my expertise on it, and I'm like, don't don't cuss at it. If it knows your daughter's name, your daughter's never been there. That is something demonic. So that
Telltale
means
signs.
it knows your daughter. Get your daughter some protection. But whatever you do, you come across that again, it comes on there. Don't acknowledge it because you're just challenging it. You're inviting it.
Right. It's hard. It takes experience. It takes
Yep.
an occasion to learn and what to do and recognize the manipulation. Russell, my battery on my phone is getting low.
Yep. We're gonna get ready to wrap up here, anyways. If people want to get a hold of Nesper, how can they get a hold of you guys for help?
Very easy, Ed. And let's see. You can go to Nesper dot. Let's see, Nesper. Just type in Nesper and go to the, I think it's warrens.net, and they can contact Tony or Dan or leave a message for me, and we all get it. We look at it every week. So that's the easiest way. Plus, there'll be information on the Paracon,
Yep.
or simply put in Warren's Paracon 24, and you'll get information on that. Yeah, absolutely.
That, and you guys are also on Facebook. They can find you guys on Facebook as well
On
too.
Facebook, absolutely. Nesper, New England Society for Psychic Research. Nesper. Yeah.
Okay, and I thank you for joining me tonight, Wade. It's been an awesome show, and I enjoyed having you on.
Thank you for inviting me. My kindest regards to your father. And I'm so glad I got to meet you 2 weeks ago. That was a great experience, that whole trip and weekend. We drove, I think it was 2,000 miles there and back from Connecticut
Yeah, that's about
with
that.
the items. So, but nothing happened. It was all good. So it was a remarkable experience, and I'm still talking about it. I'm not over it yet.
Yeah, I'm
But it
glad
was so nice to meet you. And I thank you for this experience tonight and opportunity. I value it, and I hope the audience got something out. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, you're very welcome. I'd love to have you on again. I'm gonna reach out to Dan, have Dan on again too as well.
Would be my pleasure. And definitely, probably after the Paracon, we'll talk.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We're we're planning on coming out to Gettysburg early, probably to check out some like Jenny Wade House and stuff out there.
Now, have you been there before?
Nope, I've never
Okay.
been to Gettysburg before.
Okay. You're gonna need at least a day. Nothing paranormal, although they go together, but just the Civil War as far as Gettysburg. And I do recommend watching the movie with Martin Sheen and Tom
Okay,
Berenger. It makes it um, it's not a map anymore. It's not on a page of a book. It's right there, and how it and a lot of the locations were the National Park Service gave permission to film on the actual sites. They've never done that before. Plus, it's a very good movie. I think that they used 3,000 extras. So watch that. It'll bring it to life, and you'll get there to Gettysburg and say, "Oh, I know exactly what happened here. I recognize this from the movie." And yeah, it'll bring it to life. Yeah. And then the next day, you deal with the Paracon.
Yep.
But a whole day to see Gettysburg. It's a beautiful town, you know.
Awesome.
So that's exciting.
If you want to hang backstage for a minute, we'll talk. And I thank everybody for joining me tonight. And we will see you all next week. Stay
Thank you.
humble,
God bless.
stay safe out there. God bless every one of you that tune in. And I hope you found some good information. Everyone, have a good night.
Night.